No More podcast, where the conversation about trauma, faith, hope, and mental wellness within sports collide. With your host, Leslie Johnson.
Thank you for tuning in today to another episode of Hush No More. Hush No More is an episode where we just interview professional athletes, former and current, and we talk about some of the transition difficulties that often we face after sports. But we also get into the triumphs. And of course, there were trials along the way, but we're going to get into all that later into this episode. But our special guest is extremely special to me. His name is Charles Choo Smith. And Mr. Smith, man, I'd rather refer to him as my brother more than anything else, because when you meet Choo Smith, you love him instantly. He's just that kind of guy. But Choo is going to be talking about his upbringing. He's going to be talking a little bit about his career. But we're going to get into a lot of topics that you may not normally hear on other broadcasts. But first, let's talk a little bit about who Choo Smith is. Well, Choo, I'll let you tell us who you are, and I'll fill in the blanks in case you're a little bit humble today.
Well, Leslie, I'm very excited to be on your podcast. We talked about this oftentimes, just excited. I mean, it's your time, it's your season, and you just have a great way with people. And, we've done a lot of great work together. And this is the time to, reorganize the world, reorganize the thought process of people and get people to understand the power of togetherness, love, and prosperity.
Absolutely.
For me, born and raised in the city of Baltimore, just had a lot of challenges, like everyone else. But, I had two wonderful parents, that they're still living, and they did a lot for me, at a time in the late 70s, early 80s, during my childhood. There was a lot of crime, a lot of disadvantaged situations. But I had those two wonderful people in my life. My father, Vietnam vet, warden in prisons. He was a Marine. And at one point, he ran all the prisons in the state of Maryland.
Oh, wow.
My mom was working at a black bank, first African-American bank in our city called Advanced Federal. At one point, she became a manager. And, her thing was she was big on education and just being a nurturer. So my father just said, sports was the closest thing to life that he could give me. Baseball, football, boxing, and believe it or not, basketball was my worst sport, and it was my last. So as playing those sports, my father always talked about, it builds character. He talked about, the power of leadership, the power of work ethic, discipline, making other people better, being able to be selfless, being able to deal with, setbacks and having the internal fortitude to endure adversity and overcome, and just always standing strong no matter what. My mom was big on the education piece, where she didn't want me to be ignorant as a kid. So
absolutely.
So she they both strategized and put sports magazines and sports books and baseball, football, and boxing cards, so I can read and study the history of those games and those sports. So it always was big on, paying homage for those that did it before me. And with that, just learned a lot. And even though I went through a lot as a child, I just always, fought through. And my parents always like, respect is earned, is not given. Treat people how you want to be treated. And don't make excuses. Don't do the blame game. And that was the biggest thing for me growing up. I was always a giver, someone I wanted to galvanize young people to come together and go get them play sports and play red light, green light, and hide and go seek. Whatever it was, I just
Yeah.
wanted to have fun. And during that time, I lost three of my best friends to violence, and they got killed in front of me. And when you
Wow.
see it as a young person, you understand that you have a short time on this earth if you don't live right. And when I got a chance I was really, really good in baseball. And when I was playing baseball, I had a chance, I was going to get drafted. But I think in my 10th, 11th grade year, uh, I was outside in the projects playing, and guys was calling me scrub, and you can't play, and this was basketball. It was like, you too small, this ain't football, baseball, boxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you gotta understand, I'm highly competitive, and it's
Yeah.
like, you're talking to me. So that's something I worked on my game. We won a church league championship where all the best players was there. And I went and tried out, broke my leg, and my baseball coach was mad. So believe it or not, I only played 1 year of high school basketball. I never played.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah, I only played 1 year. And with
So
that,
you was a late bloomer in basketball.
yeah, in a late 5'9" blue. Picture that.
Yeah.
Like I'm 6'5", and but I just worked hard. I knew that I wasn't that good. I just was very competitive. I was fast. I could handle the ball, but I had a lot of work to do. So got up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning every morning, ran, tried to play against everybody. I would lose against the best players. I'm like, check it up, let's go again. I go in everybody hood. Who the best? You the best? I got you. And I just started getting better real fast.
So then how did University of District Columbia discover you?
All right, so this is the irony. So the last incident I had, so I didn't go to college straight out of high school. I went on and got a job because I wanted my own things. I wanted money, and I just thought that because how we are, we think that we can go to North Carolina or big school like to Purdue, and those schools were not looking at. So I had Division 3 schools and Division 2 schools. So I was like, man, I want to go D1, and I had scholarships to play Division 1 baseball, but I didn't want to play baseball anymore. I wanted to play basketball. So when I started working, I got in one serious incident hanging around my friends where I almost died. And my father was like, I'll kill you before I allow these streets to kill you.
Wow. Wow.
He said, I want you to, Bowie State keeps calling. Why don't you go there for the second semester? So I went up Bowie second semester. I got a 3.7. Then I went that summer, got another 3 point something. And then I went and started playing.
I want to interrupt you for a second because you're saying that you were involved in the incident where you were going the wrong way. Your father had to interject.
Right.
But then you just dove straight into the fact that you got a 3.7 GPA. Yeah. Like, square that up. How could you be such an intellectual, so smart, so great in school, but yet still make decisions based on your environment that could have derailed everything?
I tell you, Les, and I'm glad you kind of stopped me from going. I'm a very loyal person, Les, and even though I grew up in that environment, I wasn't really about that environment. Everybody was selling drugs, robbing and gang banging and things of that. I had a dad that just didn't play, and a mom that didn't play it as well. And I just never wanted to embarrass them. I wanted to do my best, to do the right thing, the best of my ability. And but I've always been a person that loved to learn. I pride myself for years being the best listener. I want to listen and listen and listen and learn, because I think when you run your mouth a lot, you don't. I
Right.
think run your mouth from the experience that has gotten you the platform to be able to give solid intangible information. You know, both of us are on platforms where we talk a lot. And it's almost like we're forced because people want to hear what we have to say because of our accomplishment. But for the most part, I'm a worker. You know, I just love to get in the grind.
Absolutely. And I've seen that.
Yeah, and that's just my thing. So when I got in school, I knew this was like my last hurrah. I knew that my aunts and different people said I had some form of it factor. I just didn't know what that was. And then when you grow up in an environment where they tease a lot and people are broken and they always try to pull you down to where they are,
Yes.
really see and really understood how great God had a path for my life.
So was
And
there temptation when you were in school or like when you went home for like the summer or holidays? Were there still temptations that existed for you?
oh, most definitely, all my friends, you know, just was into stuff. You know, very seldom, but I was really, to be honest, Les, I was just a leader. You know, like
Yeah.
I would go on a corner, I would grab the guys and say, man, put that to the side or put it under the tree or under a cinder block. Come with me, man. Let's go have some fun. Come with me and get some wisdom from my dad and my uncles. And when
So
I came,
when specifically did you know that you were done acting out or
when
even being tempted anymore? What was the turning point?
really, to be honest, um, when I started losing my friends, you know, one time we were at a McDonald's and one of my friends, he wasn't no joke. You know, he ain't do no talking. And if you came across him, lights out. That's the kind of guy he was. And we were in the line. We was over. I'm from West Baltimore, so we were over in East Baltimore. And the guy tried to butt through the line. He tried to knock us over, and my guy just knocked the guy out. And we just was brawling in the McDonald's. And then when we got to my car, I was, you know, at that time we ain't had them little keys where you could push the button. You had to stick your key in the
Yeah.
hole and turn.
Yeah.
And they blew my friend's head off from the passenger side. And so that was eye opening. And then the other two times just happened to be on the corner. And
We gotta pause. We gotta pause.
yeah,
You were in the car
we were
when that
both
happened,
yeah, we were both getting ready to get in the car, and they ran up on him on the side.
but you
And
saw it.
yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
What was the traumatic effect from that?
Well, you know, at the time, I didn't really have time to uh, embrace it at that moment. I was just trying to get the other two guys to safety because I thought we all were going to get shot. And but once people ran, and I just wanted to save my friends. You know, he was gone, but I just wanted to save him. And a lot of the people were like, leave, you know, because they didn't want to. And you know, the crazy thing about this situation,
Wow.
I hid it from my parents. You know, I hid it because they
How old were
didn't.
you? How old were you?
16. Yeah. And
How long did you
then,
hide it? When did you tell?
whew, I don't think I've ever told. I think that they've heard it through some stories and through the grapevine, but I never. My mom was a worrier,
Hmm.
and she already knew once I was out here that it was a strong possibility that I may not come back home because that's how it was, you know, in our city. It was really rough, and it was during that time where people, you know, were just starting to use guns. You know, for me, my dad always taught me use your hands, and if you lose, take your loss gracefully and come back again if you feel like you want to go at it again. If not, go about your business. But you know, at that time, People were, it was just that.
So
that
you
time.
just didn't want to worry them, which was pretty obvious. You just didn't want to worry them. You said there
Yeah.
was two more before I interrupted you. What was the other two?
Yeah, the other two were drive-bys. One of the things that kept happening with me is I would go and work out and go play, and I had games, but my friends were into things, right? They would be beefing and having different altercations, and I would just always be a product because I'm around, you know, and that was really pretty much because I got along with everybody, but everybody knew that when I rode with you, I rode with you. So a lot of times I was in fights and scuffles where I didn't even know what was going on. It's just that if you're with me, I'm not going to allow anything to happen to you to the best of my ability. So those two situations that happened, they had done some things to some people, and they came by and they shot up the corner, and both times, both of them my friends got hit. Just so happened I didn't get hit. Could have hit me too. So, so
Well,
that's
you mentioned that you're a faithful man, and I know that out of personal experience. Some of the
yeah,
conversations we've had. Those
yes,
those that are not believers might chalk that up as, wow, he is so lucky. But I
right.
think that we both would agree, just listen, I never heard this from you. And I know that we both would agree, had to be grace that kept you.
Oh yes, all day long. And Les, the most important thing for me, for all that I've been through in my life, I know that you know God has got a plan for me greater than my own understanding. And as I think about those that I've lost, some experiences of those people that didn't elevate that I looked up to, or their path was a little bit different, I always put them on my shoulders and say that I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for, allow God to lead me in a direction where it's all about His will and not mine. And once I started trusting and believing in that and understanding, having a relationship with Him, my life was a true benefit from it. And then I started understanding how to navigate through controversy, through challenges, and start understanding that it's those life experiences that make us who we are, and we have to give
Yes.
back to others. And that's the beauty
Yes.
of my childhood. I had a rough one, but I had to, we know that the good Lord bared the cross for all of us, and I just had to bear a little cross of my own, and that brings fruit, and those seeds that get planted. A lot of times, Lance, I think we only we're only good when things benefit us. I'm a firm believer that you have to go through uh, some tough times and some challenging times because you have to find out what's on the other side. If everything goes good for you all the time, then what do you have in your think tank? What do you have in the internal fortitude of how you are wired? Can you get through something?
Yeah.
If you can't get through, if you don't have no
The,
experience,
it's the tough times is when we develop.
exactly. And that's
It's when we develop. And I got a little bit teary eyed when I heard you saying all of those things because I thought one was, as we already covered, grace really kept you. And as my mother always reminded me, you're living on mother's prayer.
all day.
All of those wonderful things that sometimes God just protected us and could have been different, and all when we get to talking about all of your successes, and I'm going to be thinking about this throughout this interview because I'm going to be thinking about it. You, if it wasn't for God holding you,
Yeah.
protecting you, none of this would happen. And when we get into all the great things that that you've done and the man that you become, to know that we would have never had this force that is so great in you, and it could have ended at 16. I'm going to be thinking on that throughout this interview, because it makes me emotional. It makes me emotional.
Les, I try to, Miss Karen is here, and she knows my life and knows a lot of what I've been through. And we would have to have a 6-hour podcast. I mean, if you think that's it's so much more. And but I say we all have those things that we go through and those experiences. It's how we come out of it. I think the most powerful thing that has happened in this generation is people's voices being heard. You think about your great friend, Indiana's own Dana Black, her wonderful podcast over the last 6 years, and you getting your start in it. It's a thing about being able to bring these authentic conversations to the surface. When you can be able to learn what that person has gone through to make them who they are today. I'm always big on that. Like, I don't want to know all the good. I want to know, what did you go through to become this wonderful individual?
Well, some of our viewers who are just now getting to know me a little bit, Hush No More was derived from my pain.
Right.
I being a former player who played in the WNBA and finding myself 2 years later, 420 pounds, became a raging alcoholic. And there's so many things, like you say, we would have to talk for 6 hours or more to get into all the elements of our life that brought us to our today. Yes. But the reason you're here today and I have this podcast is because I started saying, it's not that we don't all have a story to tell, but my frustration all along has been that we don't have enough platforms that's telling it. And especially when we start getting down the road of all the mental effects that sometimes go into the difficulties in our transition, the difficulties that brought us there, after sports. But again, even when we play, I think we have to do what we're doing today, Choo. We have to highlight all the things that drove us, because somewhere out there we have kids who will be listening and they'll just be saying, "Oh, look at how great Choo Smith is. Oh, he's a Harlem Globetrotter." And they need to know where it came from. That you paid the price. I mean, you got there from your pain. It just drove you. It kept you motivated. I really want to get into that. I want to talk about when you got to college. How much of that did you continue to think about that when it became just like a switch? And he was just like, you know what? I'm determined. I'm going to use what I've been through to do better. And I'm going to showcase that on the floor, because this is the platform that God has given me. Let's talk about that motivation.
Well, Liz, it's a lot of other things that I've been through that helped me evolve, and the one thing I had to learn was my truth. That was the biggest thing that motivated me, being vulnerable to myself and understanding that I'm who I am and I don't need to apologize for who I am. And at that moment in college, I just knew that I had to utilize this basketball that I love so dearly. Basketball never hurt us. The basketball always was our safe haven. It was something that we could just take all our frustration, all our anger, and
Absolutely.
that have happened to us. We can go and run and compete and see that ball go through the hoop, or see that nice pass that you gave that individual and they finished. How we can help each other defend somebody that's a great player, and we can neutralize, and we can get to that third and fourth minute, those championship minutes, and we can figure it out together and come with the win. Uh, that's what life is, and I start seeing it and understanding that we got to go through the fire. Let's not duck the fire. Let's go through. And you'd be surprised what happens when you go on this other side. Just think about fire when it burns. Like if you just sit there while it's burning, you're gonna burn. But we can walk through the fire and not get burned. It might catch us a little bit, but we're not gonna just burn to a crisp. But if we sit there in it, we're gonna burn to a crisp, and we're not gonna come out. So it's just always about facing your fear. I had to understand that there were certain things when I was going through college that I wasn't that good at, and it was things that I just had to work on. And then I had to go through certain challenges that may not have been favorable to my overall constitution of thinking. We have to understand that tender age from 18 to 28 is the building blocks of who we are. And if we're not careful, we can go down a trajectory of self-doubt, hopelessness, and never being able to overcome that pain that ultimately it's not really pain. It's really it's not a punishment. It's really protection. And I know people say, well, why are you saying that? Because it's bigger than us.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Think about when you were playing. Your ultimate goal was to be a professional player, but he planned it out how he wanted it to come. And if we can learn to surrender to him and allow him to guide our spirit and our thought process, there's nothing we can't accomplish. And that's why I don't have, and that's what that motivation was for me. I started figuring it out because what was happening to me was I was living through other people because I felt like they were more knowledgeable or things that I just didn't know, I didn't understand, I wasn't exposed to. But what started happening is that I started looking at taking bits and pieces of other people's experiences and keeping them in my Rolodex, but allowing myself to evolve through my own trepidation.
Say it.
Yeah, so that's my path is my path.
Yes.
I start realizing, hold up, man, you can't do what I can do. I'm one of one, and not being arrogant about it, just being confident from within that I'm one of one. There's nobody like me. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
So once you start understanding that through your sport, and then you start recognizing why you are here in this position and what you need to do to better your position, to better serve and help others become better than you. And that's what I started dreaming to do as I was going through my playing career. Because in college now, when I'm guarding that individual, it's a whole different calling. It's a whole.
Well, you end up being the all-time leading steals.
Oh yeah, I'm
receiver at your university. All-time leading in assists. I did some homework, so you got good, real good, real good. And so now you've got all these issues that has happened from, you found yourself in with friends and you witnessed all these unfortunate things, but you've now began to use these things as motivation to do better. But then there was a turn because all of a sudden you got Really, really great. So when did Choo Smith know?
You
Damn, I'm
know,
good. I'm
you know,
good. When did you find out? When did that happen for you?
I'm gonna tell you, it's so funny you say that. So when I went, so growing up in Indiana, Indiana is considered, if not the Mecca, one of the top Meccas of all of basketball.
Oh yeah.
That's one state champion come out of your state, where we got in other places 9, 10 different state champions. But I say all that to say that when I was playing in the city, I just played against the best. So I always knew that I held my own against the best players, NBA, college, you name it. I always held my own, and sometimes I got the best of these guys. So when I went to college, I'm a coach's, whatever the coach want me to do, I'll do. So he wanted me to lead the team. He wanted me to defend the best player. Wanted me to get the ball to other guys. And for me, I don't, we talked about it. Once my career was over, I had told him, you do realize I can really score the basketball. I just choose not to because you asked me to give it to other people. And you know how you in them huddles and the play is designed for a certain person. And I already know in my mind that that person is not built for this moment. So, so one day we had a game, and this was before my final game. All of Baltimore came out to see me, and that practice before, I got a little frustrated with my coach, and I said, "Coach, here you are deferring to everybody." I said, "If you give me the green light like that, I'll watch what I'll do." And he was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." So I said, "You give me the green light like you give these guys." So he said, "All right, you, you're home, people coming." So I had 25 and 10, and we blow them out. And he was like, "Wow, you mean to tell me you sacrificed for the greater of the team?" I said, "Yeah," because that's how I was told. So then my last game of the year is how I got on the back. I wasn't on nobody's radar. I I wanted to go pro, but nobody was looking and checking for me. But what happened was it was beautiful, Liz. Senior day, we playing against Ben Wallace, Virginia Union, and all the NBA scouts was there to see him.
Wow.
And that's how I'm here with you today. I went to work. I took the first 4 shots and made it. I made the first three threes and the two, and I put on a show, and got invited to the New York Knicks rookie free agent workout session, and did pretty good there. And then went to Greece, and they sent me home because they wanted a player, and we were 5-1, and they sent me home. They just wanted a bigger name. And then my mother and them said, "Boy, you 24, 25, man, you gotta get a job." And I started working at a place called Price Waterhouse Coopers. Was one of the top firms in the country. And one of the clients was Serena Williams and Venus and Keyshawn Johnson and Shantae Moore. So I would see them walk in and out. And this is how my pro career changed. So when I first got hired, this is how crazy I am, man. So this is something that you can really hold on to. Is going.
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
So when I got in the office, I met with my supervisor, and I said, "Sir, is it okay if I can get 3.5 hours?" And he was like, 3.5 hours. I said, "Listen, you can take it out my check. You can, I can do overtime. It doesn't matter, but I need 3.5 hours." He's like, "How you gonna take on a job? This your first day, and you're gonna be asking for 3.5 hours?" I said, "I'm gonna be in the building. Please let me do it." So he said, "Okay." So he let me do it, and the whole building is 7 floors. So all the employees are on all 7 floors. So what I did, Les, was I introduced myself to every single employee in that whole building. And when I came back, the word got out, and it's a partner by the name of Larry Bailey. He was the only African American partner. This is like mid to late 90s. And when he came, he said, I think it was like 3 days. I was already working for about 3 days. And he says, can Mr. Smith come see me? So I came up there. He said, I had to meet you. He said, what in the world made you think to introduce yourself to every single employee and take that time off? I said, well, my parents, mainly my dad, said, don't ever have anybody write your story. Write your story to yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's right.
So when you go, you know, corporate America can be very brutal. And if you can go and introduce yourself to everyone, that was my take. I just said, well, Dad, I'm going to take what my father gave me and I'm going to just go in and introduce myself to everybody so I can get a good start. So as I was journeying working, the guy, Larry Bailey, played golf with Michael Jordan. They did some business together. So he would always say, yeah, man, I will one day have you meet him and all that kind of stuff. And then one day we were in there and he heard I could really play ball. And he said, son, I really believe that you need to pursue basketball because you're a different breed. You're a leader. You're a boss. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have left here and created my own. And he called Mike, put him on speaker. And, you know, Mike joked and said, you know, I was a bum and he never heard of me and all that kind of stuff. And he said, but if he can play, he should pursue it. And I put my 2 weeks in. I mean, I went on, put my 2 weeks in, went to Atlantic City Seagulls, and I went to the LA Summer League, watched, and then got in a game because somebody got hurt and he told me the guy was begging me to play with him. Then I went to the Rockford Lightning. Randy Livingston got cut from the league, so he took that roster spot. So that allowed me to go to Harrisonburg Horizon, a UVA team.
Wow.
And from there, the Globetrotter scout was there. He fell in love with me, and the rest is history. Yeah.
And it all happened because you knew your worth. You knew your worth. And then part two, see, we have a lot of people that they know what they're capable of. They can see that they're smart. But then you took the leap of faith. You can't, greatness, you got to do both. And you decided to go for it. And so you got discovered. But I don't want I don't want this to go over everybody's head. You just said that you was working for a company that employed or did work for Serena Williams, the Williams sisters.
Yeah.
So most people would have chased the prestige and working for those type of clients. I mean, that's a lot of bragging rights in itself to say, well, I work for but you decided to say, no, I'm going to go for it. I think that's huge. I think that's huge because a lot of people don't go for it. They stay content.
But you know, Les, it's a thing that, you know, there's no limit to our lives. God shows us that through everything. You know, it's just we got to pay attention. You know, a lot of times we stay down in our own stuff. We don't pay attention to evolution. And when you're blessed and have a gift, it's your responsibility to take advantage of what God has given you. And I'm a firm believer of opportunity and growth. And for me, no one can put limits on me but myself. And when we look at our lives in that fashion and we start being around others that feel the same way, you know, it's like you and I, you know, when we get together, it's just special because you're driven, I'm driven.
Yeah.
Don't take for an answer, and we hold each other up because we understand the power of what we both represent. And more importantly, even if it doesn't work, even if it's a failure, it's a win and it's success and failure. And that's what people don't understand. Like when you turn the ball over, you know you made that bad pass. Now the question is, are you going to identify that you made a mistake and never make it again, and then put it behind you to say, all right, I'm gonna have the courage to make a similar pass, but I'm gonna make sure that pass is complete. And that's how you have to deal. It's that fight through that we all
Yes.
have inside of us. The mind is a powerful thing, and that's why I love your movement. I love your mission
Thank you.
because of the mind. If we allow our mind to go somewhere else, then that's where it's going to go. And I've always put my mind right back into the direction that it's supposed to go, and that's to edify God. That's to continue to serve, continue to build, and then make the most of what I have in me so I can allow God to work. Because when you're lazy and you don't do anything or you quit, He can't work.
That's
Think
right.
about it.
That's right.
It's impossible.
But there were times, like you said, you wanted to go to a bigger name school. Was there ever times that you went through that struggle of self-doubt? And even further, did you ever experience any forms of depression or
Yes.
sadness?
Yes.
And when and where did that come
Well,
in?
it was a time in my life where I had a couple moments, and one day offline, you and I will really get into it, so you can really understand the scope of it. But I had wow, my freshman year of college, I was I broke my leg, and when I broke my leg, I was going and talking about I got a 3.7, a 3.4. And this is when I was at Bowie State. And I broke my leg, and I was very depressed because I worked so hard to get back on the basketball court. And my GPA went down to a 1.9, and I went on academic probation. So the college coach took some of my scholarship money, and I was real depressed. I was hurt. Felt like I let my family down, and it seemed like my life was going rock bottom. And then I started working at a company called Renaissance, and this time I was driving the truck, and this was a moment in my life that really, oh boy. So I was driving, and a little Indian girl, she was 10 years old. She came across the street, and I hit her, and she died in my arms, Liz. And at that time, I had been going through so much, and it was, and the company was, I had a civil suit, but then they were getting ready to indict me, so it went to the indictment piece, and they realized that it was an accident, so they didn't give me any charges. And I wanted to see the family. I wanted to meet the family. I wanted to, dedicate my whole journey to them. And at that time when it happened, I was in a police station, and I told my mom and dad, for them to just lock me up and throw away the key because it doesn't seem like my life is going to amount to anything because I keep getting these bad things happening to me. And so that was a trying time, and because of the civil case, I couldn't talk to her. So the whole time I was in college, the whole time I was finishing up and pro, I had a picture. She was 10 years younger than me. I think I was just getting ready to turn 20. And part of that has been my motivation. And I'll be honest with you, Les, sometimes a lot of the things that I've gone through and some of the things that I've had to overcome, sometimes I get a little like am I going to get punished? The devil start trying to, come in my brain to try to make me feel like I'm gonna go backwards. But
I'm so glad that you're sharing
yeah, yeah, because I
pieces
know.
because Choo, I mean, when I think about the players that I know who have suffered from depression, I could be wrong, but sometimes I feel like we're the majority. The ones who've gone through some form of depression, because as an athlete, we want to be the best. We want to be the greatest. We want to be number one. We want to be Division One. We want to all make it to the league. We all want to. And then when life happens, where things like that happen, that's just yet one more curveball to the struggle. And I'm so glad you're sharing this because you got up from. I don't even want to. I can't even imagine that type of pain that you would have experienced and still experience to this day. And yet you're such a boss man now, and you're so successful, and you're still so driven. And I'm listening to all of these things, and all people ever see is the plaques on the wall and this big community center that you have that we still haven't even gotten to. But my God, you paid the price. You paid the price for this.
Yeah, it's interesting, when sometimes doing, interviews and doing platforms like this, it opens up wounds and it reminds you of the humility of one's life, that we all are one step away from losing it all, one step away from it all ending. And that's the thing that I take it serious. Sometimes my staff
Yeah.
and people that work with me, they don't understand my passion because, and sometimes I have to be more
They don't understand.
empathetic.
I have to jump in. They don't understand your passion because they didn't go through what you've gone through. They don't. They,
Right? And
you know, the more you've been through, the more passionate you become because you along that journey you have, you had to endure. And so then you meet all these wonderful people who just want to play. And what time is this? And they don't understand all these different elements of your past that has made you who you are now. And so I think that it is pretty incredible that one, you're still alive. Two, you're not in a mental hospital. Because some of these things you have mentioned today, there are people out here in our society would have lost their mind a long time ago.
yes, man.
And
Yeah.
I'm talking to a man who just kept going in spite of it all. I have to hear from you. What do you attribute that to? What you could have been just completely depressed for life, stuck, even on that accident. That I could understand that, why that would affect you. But yet you still had to find a way to make something out of your life, even though she lost hers. Take it from here.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. You know how sometimes people ask you a question and you just have to have an answer that fits the question that's being given. But to be honest, it's really the grace. I just know that my dad and my mom really supported me, and I value what they thought. And when I used to have conversations with my dad, you know, he just would always say to me that it gets better. It's gonna pass.
Hope.
You gotta weather the storm. And I trusted what he said. And then when I started reading the Word of God and started having a relationship with him, I started understanding like this is what I'm supposed to go, and this is what I'm supposed to endure and bear. And once I started understanding my plight, I started realizing that I have to go through some things. So like right now, it's a situation where it teaches you how to really be empathetic to people's situations. So oftentimes when I'm dealing in conflict, I'm dealing in controversy, I'm dealing with people that are really trying to hurt people, I got to look at all aspects of why we're here. And that's what I try to do, help get people to understand that this is why we're in this situation. And let's think of a solution. So I'm proud of my life throughout over the last 20 plus years to be a person of solution. Okay, we have this problem. We have these issues.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And I've seen it.
Yeah, and I'm in front of it. And now let's start chopping away. And you with me, Laz, or you gonna quit? You know? Okay, you with me, Miss Dana? Okay, you with me? Okay. Who else with? You know, let's go. All right. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. Okay. All right. Hey, this person's being difficult. Okay. How do we?
Well, I don't want our time to start moving so fast that I don't share with the audience some of your greatness, some of the things that you were able to do in spite of hearing all of that. Choo Smith, we talked about the steals and assists record, but you also got inducted into the University District of Columbia's Hall of Fame in 2015. You didn't just play for the Harlem Globetrotters. You became the ambassador for the Harlem Globetrotters. You're a humanitarian. You started your own organization called the Choo Smith Youth Empowerment Organization, where you've worked with, over the years, easily thousands of athletes. You became the vice president of operations for the Young Three organization with Jerome Williams, and everybody knows that as the Big Three, founded by Ice Cube. You serve right now on the board for the National Basketball Retired Players Association as the chairman. And on top of all of that, and this is just a little bit, this is just a little bit of the things you accomplished that began from basketball, went through all the issues, the struggles, the problems, the heartache, the pain, the depression. And with all of that, you are the man who was awarded 20 acres.
Yeah.
Wait. I can't let you stop. I can't let you do that. You went through so much. And there are people who know what you've been through. But in this moment right now, you've been awarded 20 acres in a building that you call Community University.
Yeah.
That is It looks like a mall. It's so big. And this is business, community, politicians. It seems like a little bit of everybody who would have to, who lives in the city of Baltimore, who has influence at all, has had to either work with you or partner with you or they're contributing to this. But let's say this: to whom much is given, much is required. You've been through so much, but somehow God said for you, you're the one.
Mm.
I trust you to take this community for the city of Baltimore, get these kids off the street so that they're not watching their friends' heads being blown off. Get them in the gym with Choo Smith. Your initiatives, I'm sure, has saved lives. Square it up.
Well, Liz, it's always been kind of hard for me to receive. I'm not really that good at it, and I think it stems from the foundation. When I was 12, I was bragging. I was bragging about how I was the best baseball player, football player. I was good at boxing. This was bragging. And my dad broke me down and spoke about humility. And he said, a humble man is a man that gets more. And when you get more opportunity, you have to be a steward over those opportunities that's given to you. You're only as good as the day that God gives you. And you're only as good as the day that you perform at that moment. You can be good on Tuesday, but all people remember is that Sunday that you weren't so good. They forget all about it. So I wanted to start off by saying that every day I'm just motivated to be better than the day before. And that's what the work is about. I have the audacity to say I'm going to get 20 acres and the audacity to want better for my young people. But I know that that's how God would want it. He would want someone to bear the cross and step out there and give it all. One of the things that troubles me, and I'm going to be 100% honest, like, it really hurts me to my core that it is so many ancestors, forefathers, and foresisters that sacrifice so much for us. And we don't even come together the way we should to make sure that things happen for the next generation. It hurts my heart that we don't get along. Hurts my heart that we just want to blame and knock each other and look for an opportunity to tear each other down. And when I look at young people, they're so innocent, so pure. It's our responsibility to give them the direction that they need. And we got to stop talking and start doing. And that's what this project is about. That's what all the work is about. I want to be a doer. I want young people to say, Coach Choo, Mr. Choo, he showed me and he gave me my voice. He allowed me to be my authentic self with a little bit of discipline, a little bit of direction and guidance. And that's all we ask.
Talk about it real quickly. Can you talk about that Wall of Fame?
Well, these my babies, right? So we had 5 categories. We've been in existence for 18 years, and we have 5 categories. We have our academic component, mentor component, our skill development component, basketball component, and our showcase basketball component. And if you've been a part of 2 of them and you went on to college, you on the Wall of Fame. And we have a ton of these kids. Our last group, so proud of them. That was our 2021 group. The 2022, there's still probably about 4 or 5 of them are getting ready. Well, it's really 2023 group, but our 2022 group, out of 11 players, 9 of them went into college, 5 D1. And so excited about that group because I watched them grow. And we just love on them, man. We celebrate them. They come back, give back. All of them have some special stories like you and I.
Yeah.
Okay, Danish. We had him since he was a baby. Me and his father grew up together. And his mother got killed when he was 2. And his father got shot up and paralyzed when he was 11. So I got him in McDonough High School, a private school, almost a free education. And the irony, he beat Emmanuel Quigley that plays for the Knicks. 7 out of 9 times they played against each other. And he went to the NCAA tournament. Mount St. Mary's took him there. And next year he's going to go pro. It's just, we got a lot of stories. A young lady named Andrea Robinson, couldn't play a lick, came to me, got her confidence up, had scholarship offers all over. She just decided to go to Davidson. Her freshman year, she gets leukemia. And then she fights through it, graduates, and now she has a good job, and her leukemia is in remission. And
Thank
she's
God.
happy. And, we got just tons of stories with these young people, but we just meet them where they are. We love them. We talk to them. And then when you listen to them, boy, they teach you, And
They do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And, that's what it's about. Just fostering conversations and allowing them to understand they got a voice, but it's a respect and it's ethics to your voice that we have to teach and show the importance of it. And just love these babies and love the organization, and we just pray that we continue to do the work. We just got a partnership with Park and Recs. We're so excited about that. We're going to get ready to be in 9 locations. That's going to be the satellite to the community. We got a partnership with Microsoft. We just, we have to be the change that everybody expects. And we doing it through experience, engagement, and just being able to love and make sure that those opportunities are fostered to these young people where we can develop them and not house them. And that's
what you've done is create the blueprint. And I told you that one day. I said, Choo, the things you're doing in Baltimore, at some point, I'm a firm believer that all across this country, somebody's going to say, can we see what Choo Smith accomplished in Baltimore? And literally go line by line, item by item. Let's do what Choo Smith did. Because go ahead. What'd you say?
I'm getting ready. We're going to have a community university in Indiana. It's going to be, for you, going to be the lead.
Okay. Breaking news. I didn't know. Okay. Hey, I live my life every day. I say, Lord, just show me the way. Show me the staircase that I have to climb. That's all I want. Just show me the staircase that I have to climb. And one day at a time. So, wherever God leads me, I'll go. And anything you ask me to do, I will do. But Choo, let me tell you, what a pleasure. What a pleasure it was to interview you today. But it's more of a pleasure for me to call you my friend.
Yeah.
And to know that we're still relatively young. We still have some days on this earth and still put our footprints on this earth. And but I know that your ladder is still going to continue to be greater than your past. But I don't want to end this broadcast without talking about Choo the father. Just tell us a little bit about you as a father, and we'll end it there.
Whew. You know, you just touched me with that. You know, I'll be honest with you, Les, probably the greatest 3 moments of my life. You know, seeing my 3 born, and really nothing else matters as much as them outside of giving my life to Christ. You know, I've accomplished some things in my life. I've seen the world, been around a lot of people, but I would give it all up as it relates to them. Everything I do right now is for them to have a better way to navigate through society and being able to utilize the specialness that they have. You know, I'll speak about them one by one. First start off, Ayana, you know, she's 16. I call her Yanni Stinks, my firstborn. She's the most beautiful, wonderful young lady. She's smart. I mean, beyond smart, like that Einstein way. And but she has so much to give, and I just want her to walk into her greatness. You know, she was born one day before me. I was born November 30th. She was born November 29th. It's just, that's daddy's girl. And such a great leader for her siblings, and just a phenomenal human being with a powerful voice. Y'all remind me of each other in terms of you all's substance and ability to think beyond what's in front. My son, wow, what can I say? I named him after my father and their mom's father, Charles Jefferson Smith, call him CJ. Just my man's man, you know, just such a gentleman, a leader, loves everybody, very loyal, just strong. I just want him to be way better than I ever was thought of, and have his own voice, his own platform. I want him to be, that's CJ's dad, you know, not Choo's son. And last but not least, I call her Miss Effervescence. She's Layla Boo. Boy, ain't nobody got a personality like this one. She's vibrant, impactful. I always try to protect her spirit because I just think she has the spirit to change the world.
Wow.
She's very smart, very good to her siblings. So that's what I live for. I live for them. I pray that, you know, one of my biggest fears early on was not being a good example to them. You know, I don't ever want them to look at their daddy in disgust. You know, I see with fathers are not looked at in a good light, and like that would cave me in. You know, that's probably one weakness of mine is them. You know, and I love them, and I just pray that God allows me to pave a way for them that they can walk through and know that daddy just wanted the best for them. Yeah. And I just want to say this before we close, because I think it's very important that the audience needs to know, and your listeners need to understand who you are. I brag about you all the time. You don't even understand, even through my new position as a chair, your name comes up all the time for me because of your selflessness and your courage. You were going through some serious stuff, and I just thank you for trusting me. And that's the part that I think people don't understand. We have to cover and be each other's brother and sister's keeper through vulnerable moments. And I will never forget you allowing me to be your brother and allowing me that you trusted me enough to know that I'm going to cover who you are as that special person that God has made.
Thank you, Choo.
I'll never
Thank
forget
you.
that. Because
Thank you so much.
So I love you, sis. I'm proud of this platform. We talked about it. Miss Indiana's own Dana Black, thank you for giving her an opportunity. Her voice is going to be heard, and we're going to blow this thing out. We got a lot of work to do. And
yeah, shout out to Dana for this production. And Turn Left is her broadcast. So for all you Democrats, Republicans too, but especially for you Democrats, check her out because she is special and a vibe all by herself. But again, thank you for appearing today, Choo. And I look forward to more work, all the work that's ahead. It's going to be a pleasure to continue to work with you. And I love you. And thank you for coming on Hush No More.
Hush No More.
Thank you for turning in to the Hush No More podcast, the one and only platform where professional athletes, current and former, can come on a non-judgmental broadcast to discuss their trials, triumphs, faith, and transition difficulties from sports. This show is hosted by former WNBA player, depression and alcohol abuse survivor Leslie Johnson, who founded Hush No More LLC after surviving her own self-struggles after sports. Leslie believes that we can take a huge step forward towards mental wellness simply by sharing the life stories, experiences, and testimonies of professional athletes to others that secretly hurt. By subscribing to this podcast, you'll quickly discover that we can learn so much and heal by listening to one another.